Oprah Winfrey. You won't believe how a little girl born in poverty, wearing potato sacks for dresses, grew into one of the most powerful women the world has ever seen. Her story is not just about success. It's about survival, heartbreak, resilience, and an unshakable fire that turned wounds into wisdom. This is the extraordinary journey of Oprah Winfrey. When we think of Oprah, we imagine the empire, the billions, the global influence. But long before the lights, before the magazine covers, before the talk show that changed television forever, there was just a little girl from Mississippi. Born in 1954 to teenage parents who weren't even married, Oprah Gayle Winfrey entered a world with no stability, no safety net, and no certainty of where she truly belonged. As a baby, she was sent to live with her grandmother, Hattie Mae Lee, on a small farm. Life there was brutally poor, but something priceless happened. Her grandmother taught her to read by age 3. Imagine that this tiny girl standing in church, reciting scripture with a conviction that seemed far too heavy for a child. Words became her shield, her weapon, her escape from a world that offered nothing else. But poverty never left her side. She admitted later that sometimes she wore potato sacks as dresses because there was nothing else. At 6, her life shifted again when she was sent north to live with her mother, Vernita Lee, in Milwaukee. What she found wasn't comfort, but neglect. Her mom worked long hours, leaving Oprah in the care of others. And in those unstable homes, Oprah faced betrayals. No child should ever endure traumas that scarred her deeply and stole away her innocence far too soon. By 14, her pain reached its darkest moment. She gave birth to a baby boy who tragically died shortly after. That loss became a wound she carried for the rest of her life. With no way to manage her anymore, her mother sent her to Nashville to live with her father, Vernon Winfrey. Strict and unyielding, Vernon demanded discipline and education above all. It was harsh, but it saved her. Under his roof, she finally had structure, a chance to rebuild, a chance to glimpse a future beyond survival. And from then on, Oprah's mantra was clear: turn your wounds into wisdom. At 17, she entered the Miss Black Tennessee pageant, not chasing beauty, but opportunity. Against the odds, she won. That crown led her to a job in radio, and for the first time, her voice began to carry. She often showed up hungry, wearing second-hand clothes, terrified someone would see through her. But when she sat in front of the microphone, she knew this was her calling. By 19, she had broken barriers as the youngest, and the first black female news anchor at WLAC-TV in Nashville. Yet even then, executives said she was too raw, too emotional for television. But that rawness, that honesty, was her gift. In 1978, when she co-hosted a local talk show in Baltimore, she didn't just interview guests, she connected with them. She laughed with them, cried with them, lived in their stories. And America had never seen anything like it. Fast forward to 1984, when she took over a struggling morning show in Chicago called AM Chicago. At the time, it was dead last in ratings. Within months, she had turned it into the #1 show in the city, toppling even Phil Donahue. By 1986, it was reborn as The Oprah Winfrey Show. And the rest? History. For 25 years, Oprah didn't just host a show, she created a cultural cathedral. A place where people came not just for entertainment, but for truth, healing, and connection. She validated people in ways television had never dared to. And in doing so, she became the unshakable voice of a generation. But behind the applause, the pressure was crushing. She carried not just the role of host, but of healer, therapist, and confidant. Critics mocked her emotions, tabloids ridiculed her body, and she admitted there were nights she cried in silence, wondering how long she could keep going. Yet, she didn't stop. Instead, she built Harpo Productions, launched other careers, and proved she wasn't just a face on the screen, she was an empire builder. Still, failure found her too. In 1998, she poured her soul and millions of dollars into Beloved, a film she believed would cement her legacy. Instead, it bombed at the box office. On opening weekend, people went to see Bride of Chucky instead. Imagine that heartbreak. She described feeling lost, disoriented, as if her purpose had vanished. But even in that humiliation, her courage to take such a risk stood as proof of her audacity to dream bigger than anyone thought possible. Her greatest battles, though, weren't on the screen. They were in her body. For decades, she fought a public war with weight, mocked on magazine covers, dissected by tabloids. She admitted it was her most relentless demon. By 2021, her knees gave out, forcing her into surgery. Many would have slowed down. Oprah rebuilt herself, walking miles daily, climbing mountains on weekends, proving once again she could rise from pain. And in 2023, with characteristic honesty, she admitted she'd turned to weight loss medication, not as a miracle, but as survival. She didn't dress it up or glamorize it. She told the truth, raw and unpolished, as she always had. Her battles with grief cut just as deep. She lost her brother Jeffrey to AIDS in 1989, her half-sister Pat to addiction in 2003, her mother in 2018, and her father in 2022. Each loss carved another scar into her already heavy heart. Yet through it all, she endured. She carried their memories as fuel, refusing to let tragedy define her story. And then, there was love. While her early relationships ended in heartbreak, her romance with musician John Tesh falling victim to society's racism, and her brief relationship with critic Roger Ebert, leaving her with advice that would change her career. It was in Stedman Graham that she found her anchor. Since 1986, he stood quietly by her side. They never married, never had children, but built a bond of trust and freedom that has lasted nearly 4 decades. In Stedman, she found her safe harbor. Today, at 71, Oprah Winfrey wakes up not to the glare of studio lights, but to the peace of her Montecito home, surrounded by horses, gardens, and the ocean breeze. Her net worth may hover near $3 billion, but she measures her wealth in impact, the scholarships she's funded, the schools she's built, the lives she's lifted. From her Leadership Academy for Girls in South Africa to her disaster relief work in Maui, her philanthropy has become as legendary as her career. Through every triumph and every heartbreak, one truth shines. Oprah Winfrey's story isn't about being flawless. It's about surviving the unthinkable, carrying scars with dignity, and choosing again and again to rise. So, the next time you see her name, remember the journey. Remember the little girl who wore potato sacks and grew into a woman who gave a voice to millions. And if her story moved you, inspired you, or gave you even a spark of hope, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video, because the world needs stories like this one.